Welcome to the Home Studio Hangout podcast, where we explore what it's like building, running, and working out of a home studio with your hosts, Joshua Matotek, Andrew Simmons, and many guests in different areas of the music industry.
Welcome back to the Home Studio Hangout podcast. I am your host, Drew, here with my co-host, Josh. Josh, say hello to the people.
Hi.
Josh, what are we doing today?
We're going over our Spotify Wrap 2023.
And by Spotify, you mean you're going through your Spotify. I'm going through my Apple Music replay.
Yeah.
Because I'm a nerd and I don't have Spotify.
That's fine. Spotify's
and,
ass. No, I'm just kidding.
And at the end
sort
of the episode, after we go through all of our crap, I have something special to talk to Josh about. So,
wow. I didn't know.
Yeah, I know you don't.
Wow.
But to start,
I know you don't.
To start, did you listen to a lot of music this year?
Hell no. I listened to 15,000 minutes.
Jeez.
Yeah, 15,000 minutes. That's all.
I listened to. So it's deceptive because this is the tricky part. Majority of what my listening habits are because of my son, because I have a 2-year-old.
Oh yeah.
My junk's all skewed. He listens to music almost every day, and there are 25,000 minutes on logged on to my Apple Music, which means I barely listened to anything.
That's pretty sick, dude.
Myself. So, but I do have some things that I did listen to a decent amount this year. So why don't we do you want to do top 10? Or I have top 15.
Spotify gives you top 5 artists and then top 5 songs, and then they make you a playlist of your top songs.
Go to your playlist and let's do top 15.
Top 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well, that's not fair, because now I can see the song right below it as a small artist that I really like.
You can shout them out.
All right. We should probably work in reverse.
Well, yeah, that's what I figured. We work like
yeah. That way it's
so
like a
mine
countdown.
are gonna be top albums, because it doesn't. My top songs are all skewed up because of my son, but my albums are actually correct.
Okay. Yeah, they don't give me albums.
I know. So we'll just do like kind of a mix hodgepodge of both.
Right.
So my number 15 album was this album called Travel 2. It's actually an EP by this band called Future of Forestry. They're a very cool indie band, 3-piece. Dude that sings plays guitar and like a pump organ. The girl that plays, they don't have a bass guitar. She plays cello and like percussion instruments. And then they have another dude that plays guitar and drums. He just loops guitar parts in between sections and then like plays drums and then like loops the drum parts and stuff. It's so sick. But it's kind of an older record actually. But
that's like the kind of, like, you know when you're at a bar and like some old guy's talking to you and he's like, "What do you do?" And you're like, "Oh, I work in music." And then they go, "Oh, sick, I have a band." That's like the kind of band that like you wish that they had.
Yeah.
Because typically it's just like, "Oh yeah, we cover Prince," and it's like, "What are you doing trying to sing Prince, dude?" Like,
yeah. No, yeah.
But I heard you on karaoke.
It's like it's a record from like 2006 maybe. It's a pretty old record.
Very cool.
I want to say, but yeah, that's my number 15.
All right, so I'm doing songs.
And before Josh gets going, listeners, I want you to comment or put in whatever place. I'll post it on Instagram as well after when this episode airs of who had the better list. Probably Josh, because I didn't listen to a ton of music. And what did you actually rate our list out of? We'll say out of 5.
I like that. I respect
Yeah,
that. Well, everyone's gonna give us both ones.
probably. All right.
Definitely. All right. So my number 15 is "Summertime" by Skrillex featuring Kid Cudi.
Uh,
Yeah, I was actually kind of shocked. I haven't listened to a lot of music this year,
yeah.
and typically, regardless, my playlist is overridden by Taylor Swift and Christmas music because I have it linked to the Google Home.
Yeah.
So whenever Maddie is baking, she'll be listening to that.
We
And
haven't hit Christmas music time yet though.
I know. So this year I got a pretty accurate assessment. And
Nice.
so yeah, this Skrillex record was huge. Which record is this? Well, which album is this? He released 2 at the beginning of the
Yeah, he
year.
dropped 2 this year. This was so that's what also is
It's
crazy.
"Don't Get Too Close."
What another thing that's crazy is I forgot how much like music came out this year.
There was a lot of music.
I feel like so much dropped this year.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
every big person dropped a record. This all seems like records bigger. You remember like 2021, early 2022, all of like the like not huge artists dropping records from COVID. I feel like this year we got all of like the major artists that have to go through all of the label red tape dropping their COVID albums. Or at least some songs that were started in COVID.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
It's what it feels like to me, at least.
I don't know. I feel like most years, like, I don't know. I feel like music peaked in like 2014. Dude, I can't wait to tell my grandkids that. Like, music peaked, volumes drop, no sleep.
That was it.
Yeah, and that was it. That was it. Ever since No Sleep came out, everything sucks.
But
And
yeah, I've 100% forgot that Skrillex dropped 2 whole records.
yeah, the one is more of like a pop kind of thing, and then like "Don't Get Too Close," which is the album I really liked, is more like poppy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Is that the one with the hedgehog on the front of it?
yes, and then the other
Yeah, I
one
like that
is
one.
like the dance record.
Yeah,
That
his like more old school EDM record.
like the kind of stuff that he'd be playing live, you know.
Yeah, like it, like
And
Ultra and stuff.
they're both really good. Like there are
Mhm.
some songs on the dance album that like I was blown away by, but this one in particular, I like it because like it's more like vocal heavy and it's like way more. It's very catchy,
Yeah.
but the sound design on it is just unreal. It's
Well,
like he's like in this like area now where like obviously like he took dubstep like mainstream, right? And everybody hated him at the time because they were like, he's not Rusko. And it's like, oh, whatever,
yeah.
he's better, you know? And then like, you know, he did some stuff, then he like kind of disappears, then he comes out with like a crazy album every once
But
in a while.
then
And
he
like
comes. Then the other big thing was him and Diplo co-producing that Bieber record, "Purpose," which went insane. And then all
yeah,
the Jack U stuff that came out after around that time too.
yeah, and then like after that is like whenever he started like really making like more like pop music.
Mm,
And so he did that Justin Bieber Don Toliver song, Don't Go.
yeah,
And
great song.
that song I was just like blown away whenever it
Mhm.
came out. It's on this album. But
Yeah.
whenever that came out, I was like, dude, I think that Skrillex might be one of the best producers ever. Because like everything was just so perfect. They had like the early 2000s R&B guitar, but then with like a dance bass and but like everything just fit together so nice and the
But
percussion was
didn't he
perfect.
also do some from first to last stuff like this year or like late last year too?
I have no clue. I think he did.
I think they dropped like a couple songs of with him back like doing vocals again,
Yeah.
which is
I know.
also crazy to think about.
And then like this album, like what really got me listening to it is like when I found out that like Anthony Green was on it and like there were like
Oh,
cool
yeah.
features and all
Bro,
kinds
the
of stuff.
features
But, like,
were so interesting. He did such a good job of not only bringing in like the pop stuff, the world he's in right now, but also like the world that he came from originally, like bringing them like up to where he is now was very cool.
Yeah, and so like this album actually kind of like set my course for the year. Like I kind of just decided I was like, all right, it's time. Like I need to get better with like synthesis. I was thinking about that too. I was like, man, the year's winding down. Like, what did I get done?
Yeah.
And I realized like the biggest thing that I improved on this year was just my craft, and I'm very very excited about that.
Yeah, dude.
Because yeah, and like this album is probably like the sole purpose behind like my quest for like sound design and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that tracks.
that's my number 15.
Number 14 for me. I've actually mentioned it on the podcast before. It's the album "Soft Thing" by Looney. She's that Toronto R&B
Yeah.
girl. Dude, the reason that one got so many plays for me is like I will put that song on and just like while I'm driving in the middle of the night and just like go. It's such a good chill record to listen to when like my wife's not a big like music in the car person, but like it's good background music with but I still really enjoy it. So yeah, it was I don't even think that record came out this year. I think it came out last year. A thing that I'm going to see probably from a lot of this is these are all records that came out like late last year. But yeah, Soft Thing, Looney, Toronto production. Everything's very lo-fi R&B. So if that's your thing, go check it out. It's super cool.
My number 14 is Body Language by Balance and Composure. The reason why
Oh,
this is on
nice.
here is because whenever I'm cooking or whenever I'm driving, I just tell my smart devices to play Balance and Composure. And this is one of the songs that gets
Yeah,
in
it
that
auto
rotation.
plays too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah, it's
makes
a great
sense.
song.
Great
So
song, dude. Great. Didn't Balance drop a record? Was it this year?
yeah, it's like my most listened to song.
Yeah,
Is
that
one of
record
the
is one of the.
they dropped an EP, but
That's what it was. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and one of those songs is my bop.
Nice.
So
Number 13 for me. So this is like very CCM world. It's a dude named Benjamin William Hastings. He's a songwriter for if you know anything about like the Christian music world, he's a really big songwriter in that world, and he started putting out his own stuff. Uh if you know Hillsong, he writes a lot with Hillsong. He writes a lot with like Bethel and like those kind of large camps. He wrote the song for those in the church world. He wrote the song "So Will I." He also wrote the song "Highlands." So
did he write that
it's
"How He Loves Us" song?
no, that's John Marvin Millen,
Mm.
who I also really enjoy, but he's not on my list this year. But no, he's really cool. He's got a very interesting voice and writing style. I think he's Scottish or Australian, one of the two. And yeah, I don't know, man.
Those are two vastly
I
different
know,
things.
I know. I can't remember but he's one. I'm saying he is one of those two, and for some reason I cannot remember which one he is.
He's probably Australian because
He's probably
that's
Australian.
where Hillsong started.
True. I don't know if he's like a transplant because Hillsong has like places all over the place.
That'd be
They have
kind of
like
crazy.
yeah, but he's a very good songwriter. He's an instance, and this is something I think I'm surprised. Maybe there's a legal issues for this, but things that he does is he puts out records of him doing the songs that he writes for other people.
Mm.
So I really like
The
that. That he's got literally an entire album of songs that I wrote and some that I didn't, and like just
that's
all
pretty
it's like
nice.
chill versions of songs that he wrote, and then it's just like an album, like a 25 song album of his songs that other
That's pretty
people's.
cool.
Yeah, it's
I
sick.
I respect that a lot.
It's a little bit of a
I
flex, and I kind of like it.
yeah, I like that a lot. Anything to give Hillsong less money is
Yeah, well,
something
fair,
that I support.
fair. But I think it's cool. I think it's just interesting from like a songwriter perspective. I kind of wish more songwriters would do that.
Yeah, I want to go to the writers rounds in Nashville. Hear some of these bigger songs that the songwriters are just singing to kind of get like what their interpretation of it is,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, it's like, oh, I wrote
what
this song.
changed. And
Bam. Yeah. No, that's super interesting. But yeah, that's my number 13.
my my number 13 is Gaslight by Dive Liner. If you don't
I
know that
don't know.
song, you
I
need to
don't
know
know
that
that one
song.
at
It,
all.
it was on like a bunch of alt playlists on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
This dude's sick. He's a tattoo artist in LA, and he drops
Okay.
music. And it's very much like in the alt kind of vibe. And this song in particular is like produced awfully. Like the drums sound terrible, the
Yeah.
guitars sound terrible, the vocal mix is awful, and the vocals were arranged terribly too. Like the chorus, it might be the whole song, but I think I know for a fact at least the chorus, the and the pre-chorus, the vocals are stereo, but there's no middle, and the performances are way different on either side. So like words duck out in like your right ear and they keep going in the left ear and stuff. And it's like the perfect example of like how sometimes songs need to sound bad. You know,
Yeah.
I like, and like for anybody listening, is like obviously like I'm not saying anything bad about the record because it's one of my most played songs. But like
Yeah.
I love whenever people really figure out like how to make low
Intentionally weird stuff.
fidelity. Yeah, like I don't know, like there's something about it where like oftentimes we chase perfection so much. Like I'm doing a record right now where like the vocals can't be in tune and there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
chromatic parts, and it's like a year ago I probably would have been like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't like this, but like it's just like a perfect example of like imperfection being like one of the coolest examples of art.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a good. I'll have to check that one out. That's really interesting.
It's really good. That's Gaslight by Dive Liner.
Gaslight by Diveliner. Cool. I so my number 12 is not even their most recent record. It's Night Love You by Nightly.
Mm.
It's their first record that they came out with in like 2019,
Yeah,
2020.
it's a good album.
Fantastic album. I produced some records for some songs for some people this year with that vibe. So I kind of like use that record as like the bar basically because I think
Wait, which album is it again? Is it?
Night Love You is the one with the white cover. Because they dropped one this year.
Yeah, this one. I love this album.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, this
fantastic.
one's really good. I was listening to this. Um, I forget when, but there's one song on here that I was really stuck on. I can't remember which one it was, but
The car is
yeah,
really
it
good.
might be the car.
It's really good. It's got like a almost like an anti EDM drop kind of thing with like guitars and stuff on it. It's so good. Anyway, from a production standpoint, they they killed it. And Matt Huber on the mix killed it. And I think Tanner, who we had on the podcast, worked on that record too.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the car. I love the choppy production
yeah,
of it. It's very
almost
cool.
like it's almost like EDM adjacent, but it's kind of
Yeah,
they're probably doing the best like of the we used to be emo kids, now we write 1975 music.
yeah. I don't know. In some ways, I'm really glad that the whole like love era is gone. But then in
Hmm.
some ways, I'm like, oh, but like things were so much more interesting. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? And so every time I hear stuff like that, I'm like, man, I wish that was still on the radio.
yeah. So yeah, that record was really good. It's just really good in general. There's like 4 or 5 songs on that record that are like reference tracks for me for producing that kind of music because I
Yeah,
find that they do a very good job of the guitar tones, fantastic, the drums, fantastic, the ways that the vocals sits and the mix and stuff. Matt killed all that stuff. So
yeah.
that's my number 12.
My number 12 is Overdrive by Post Malone. This latest album that he dropped is really good. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean it's
it's a
really
little
good.
too long, but it's good.
There's some misses on it. I it's kind of almost feels like there's like something going on. Like he's like at this pivotal point where like he's trying to figure out what he wants to sound like. I was hoping that he would go completely like country Americana, because I love Lemon Tree. That's like my
Hmm.
favorite song I think that he's ever done.
Chemicals is
And
also very good, and it kind of leans into that almost Americana esque style.
yeah, and so like Overdrive is just one of the songs that I think he got perfect on that album. So
Nice.
yeah,
Heck
that's
yeah,
my
that's a good one.
number
That's a good
whatever.
shout. That's a good shout. That record, I think, I mean, it got a lot of hate. It also kind of flew under the radar.
What what deserves the hate is all like the songs that sound like they're from the 80s. It's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're really good at this one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. There's some misses. I think if you cut all of the misses out, though, you still have like a nice 10 to 12 song record that
Yeah,
carries.
like, well, on top of that, just like the quality of those songs that hit were like so much better,
Yeah,
you
no, I
know.
agree.
And it's funny though, because like obviously, like he came up listening to like Bob Dylan and
Hmm.
all these country artists and rock and roll and all
Yep.
this, you know, the kind of stuff that you would listen to if like you grew up in Texas and your parents loved classic music, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff he's best at, you
Hmm.
know. And so like I don't know, I feel like what I want to hear is the kind of things that like are like ingrained in people, you know. And you
Yeah.
could very much tell that that's like what's ingrained in him, you know.
Yeah. That and emo music, which kind
Yeah,
of works hand in hand with that genre, to be honest.
yeah, give us a alternative record, Posty.
Y'all, bro, if he writes sad Americana country folk music, he would be massive.
Well, did you just see he was singing in Nashville with like Ernest and I
Yeah, I
think
did see
Morgan
that.
Wallen?
I did see
Yeah,
that. Yeah, which
super
is
sick,
super
dude.
super cool, man.
See what
I want him to live in that world more.
I know, same. I feel like that's where he belongs now that he's older and like he's figuring out like his art and all that. And
Hmm.
I think it would be so sick like if he did a song with like Zach Bryan. Like that
Bro,
would
and then if the wildest thing in the world would be if he did that and he blew up again, like in that world, and then the trajectory of his career is just the one of the most insane career trajectories as far as like jumping from genre to genre to genre and and redefining multiple genres.
yeah, like the only person who's like kind of been successful in more than one genre at like a stadium level is oh, what's that dude from Hootie and the Blowfish?
Yeah, Darius Rucker.
Yeah, Darius Rucker. That's like the only person I could think
But
of where
even
like
then, like his alt rock stuff was already borderline country anyway. So
fair.
it wasn't as drastic as the dude that wrote White Iverson also wrote a song with Morgan Wallen and it also went crazy. You know what I mean?
And like the thing is though, is like every single one of his releases is great. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
No,
also just like
that's a
a
testament to
testament
him as a
to
songwriter.
him as a songwriter, but then also like he really found like good people to work with. You know,
100%. 100%. His team is second to none for sure.
facts.
Um, number 11. This one is actually a heater record, and now we're moving into like some records where I'm like, golly, these were good. Um, Dark Sun, Dayseeker, the most recent Dayseeker record, they popped off on that record. Man, there's like zero screaming in this record from what I remember. Or it's like a line or two, you know. This is the first record where they went full send on the like heavy, we're gonna do 80s retro pop but with 7 strings. And I think they're starting to get a lot more recognition from this record and from the previous record, Sleep Talk, as well. uh I think it is fully deserved. I think Rory is one of the best vocalists in heavier genres as far as singers go.
They
um
have they have 1 million monthly listeners.
they do. Them and
That's
Silent
actually
Planet.
that's wait, Silent Planet's at 1 million?
I think so, yeah. This most
No
recent record,
shot, dude.
this most recent record went crazy for Silent Planet. I
I
haven't listened to it a ton, but it is insane.
they're at 463,000. I haven't really listened to Silent Planet. I used to be their
Oh, they
biggest
were
fan in
at
the world,
800. They were at 800 when the record dropped.
and they have dropped. Uh
You
oh
should check out that
geez,
most recent record. You'll really like it. It's super cool.
they've dropped a lot of stuff since I stopped listening to them. Well,
You
since I
should
stopped
listen.
listening to heavy music, but I
You should
started
listen
listening
to.
to some of the stuff off of Super Bloom, and I was like, "Whoa,
Yeah, you should
this
listen
is
to that whole
cool."
record. It's really good.
I
Anyway,
think heavy music is starting to sort itself out, which is really
sure, I think
nice.
so. But yeah, that Dayseeker, bro, Dayseeker hitting 1 million. That's insane. That's
It is insane.
crazy, especially for a heavy band.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they're moving into this direction where I think they're going to become not mainstream necessarily, but they're going to become like they're going to transcend the scene, and I think they kind of already have a little bit, but they're going to transcend the scene into maybe like more popular rock genres, maybe like with like a Bad Omens,
I think what it's
where
going to
they've kind of
do
gone.
is there was this awful disconnect between like what metalcore was and then the metalcore that was getting on radio.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with bands finding these really creative avenues to achieving a more like we'll say commercial product for a
Mm-hmm.
lack of a better term, um, it's going to start changing what gets played on the radio, which is what we need.
Well, which is
That's
great.
what we need.
Yeah, well, and so a good for instance for that, and you may not know this, but I know this from just being plugged into the world. There's a bunch of songs off that Dayseeker record that are on rock radio right now. There
Mm-hmm.
are like 3 songs off of Super Bloom, the Silent Planet record, that are on rock radio right now, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
So great for them. Both of those records produced by Dan Bronstein.
So sick,
So
dude.
shout out to Dan for being a boss, because he produced arguably some of my favorite records from like heavy records from the last couple years. And like we talked about with Chris in his interview, like it also sucks because he's a sweetheart too. He's not even like a terrible person or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I can't hate him.
I love it, dude. Dan I think has touched every single heavy record like since I got kind of sick of the genre that I get really excited about.
Mm-hmm. That
So
both of those Dayseeker records, and like I said, the most recent Silent Planet, and this upcoming TGI stuff. So,
yeah,
but yeah, that's my number 11.
my number 11 is Snake Eyes by Aries. It's a great song.
So I also have Aries on my list.
Yeah,
not
this
not
song.
Snake Eyes specifically, but bro, that song went hard.
Yeah, that it's so good, dude.
That song was everywhere. Also, the TikTok marketing campaign for that song.
I don't even follow the dude anywhere. I
No,
just know that he's on my release radar now, and he's on
bro,
every single playlist I like.
I couldn't not hear it. So what he did a really he did a really cool and interesting thing, in my opinion, is that over the course of like it was like 6 or 7 months, for he promoted one song, and like every month he added a instrument
Mm.
to like a clip. So like you heard random pieces of stuff, and then like you heard drums, and then sometimes you did it, and sometimes you just heard guitars, and like he had his guitarist do like a playthrough of Snake Eyes, and I don't know, man, it went from like he started promoting the song to I'm sick of hearing this, all the way, but he just pushed through that I'm sick of hearing this, and it came back to I'm excited for this.
That's super smart, dude.
I've
There's a lot of
never
people
seen
who,
anybody do that. It was insane.
yeah, that's really cool. That's
Yeah,
really cool.
it was
But
super
yeah,
interesting.
that's my number, whatever number we're
Number
on. Mine
11.
aren't numbered, so
Yeah, it was number 11.
okay.
For number 10, I went back. Similar to my number 15. Getting into our top 10. I went back in time to a time when I think Johnny Craig was still in Dance Gavin Dance. And Tillian was in a
Dude,
band
that is a
called Tides of Man.
yeah. I forgot about Tides of Man.
They
That was a hot name in my high school.
who?
Tides of Man.
Dude, Tides of Man, Dreamhouse.
Yeah.
Are one of the most criminally underrated scene records. It's so good. It is essentially Dance Gavin Dance with Tillian before that. It's like that mixed with Seosin. It's so
Very
good.
cool.
It's so good. Such a good record. Cannot recommend it enough. It's very old. It sounds dated, but it's still like some of the coolest vocal production and melody ideas and stuff. He flexes the heck out of his range too, because he's got an insane range. So number 10 for you, Josh.
Lost by Bring Me the Horizon.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's one
What
of the
was it
few
about that
rock
song?
records that made it through. Um, the production, the writing, everything about it. I really liked it. The only thing I don't like is the fake auto-tune vibrato, but
That
everything
that
else is riffs.
that actually turned me off so much to that song that I did not listen to it.
The production is what did it for me, though. The song
Mm-hmm.
feels like a Metro Station song at first,
Kinda.
like in the verses.
Mm-hmm.
The intro is like a My Chemical Romance thing. Actually, the whole chorus is literally just like an interpolated form of "I'm Not Okay" by My Chemical Romance.
Yeah, it is.
Um, but everything about it riffs, and the breakdown is one of the coolest things I ever heard. I used to be a huge Ocean's 8 Alaska fan. I thought that like they were making music that probably should have made me realize I had ADHD way sooner. And so like the whole idea of like, hey, we're bringing the horizon. We could drop a pop album and then drop a heavy album. And now they're like doing whatever they want. So the fact that this is like one of the heaviest things I heard, but then also like one of the most creative, like as far as like pop production goes, is like
Mm-hmm.
really cool. It's more or less just like a reference for like it's kind of like that Skrillex record for me, right? It's like
Yeah.
I listen to things that get me excited about music that I want to learn how to do, and so this is one of those records that ended up on my playlist.
That makes sense. Um, moving on to number 9, Heavener by Invent Animate. I have a very simple thing to say about this, which is this record is the record that North Lane should have made after they made Singularity. This record is
Wow.
Singularity Part 2 in every best possible way. It is so good. The mix on it, so good. The writing, fantastic. Great breakdowns, great riffs, great melodies. Like, if you like old North Lane, first 2 records, North Lane, this is the best, one of the best records for you. It's so good.
How are you just gonna disregard Alien, dude? It's one of the best albums ever released.
I do love Alien, but that's with the
That
different
was
vocalist.
that was an album that messed up my life as far as production goes.
No,
I'm
yeah,
like, I
that's
need to
true.
learn how to do this.
Well, that was also when they changed, but this is like before they changed vocalists, right? When they changed vocalists, they started going a different direction, which is cool. I also dig new North Lane in that like newer pocket, like Alien era. But if you like old North Lane, Singularity, which is one of my favorite records in the in heavy music, it is one of my favorite records of all time. Um, it's Invent Animates Heavener is like Singularity Part 2 for me. It's really, really great.
Cool.
So that's number 9.
My number 9
Josh.
is "Friend for Life" by Ex Ambassadors and Medium Build.
I didn't realize. So the more you talk about medium build, because you've been talking about medium build like this whole year,
Yeah,
I didn't realize how big they were.
yeah. He
Or he is,
I
I
don't know.
guess, because it's just one guy, right?
Yeah, well, he just signed. He just signed the Island and some indie subsidiary.
But that's what I'm saying. I
Subsidiary.
didn't realize how much traction he had behind him, or like how big in like his
Well,
own little
so
thing. He has
I
like his own little bubble that he's
I
like.
I found him whenever I had to go home when my grandfather passed, and so that
Mhm.
was March,
Yeah,
May, March,
it was early.
March.
Yeah, it was the first third of this year. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like whenever I listened to him then, like yeah, he was still like not really known, but he has a really good core group of fans who like support him, you know.
Hmm.
So then he signed his deal, and like I think what it is he's just starting to like meet the right people after doing this for so long, you know.
Yeah,
So like I don't know, it was really cool because like seeing him do a song with X Ambassadors was pretty neat, you know.
that's crazy.
That seems like a big thing that they're
That
into right now is finding
that's
artists they
another
dig.
level also of like ex ambassadors is a big deal.
But then again, like this is another one of those songs where it's like the production on it is so good that I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. It's
Hmm.
uh, the vocals don't sound like they were anywhere near the microphone.
Really
It
interesting.
sounds like they were in an untreated room, and uh, the guitars don't sound like they have an IR on them. It sounds just like DI into like an amp sim. It's super distorted and gross. Or what it honestly sounds like is it sounds like they plug their guitar into their pedal board and then straight into the interface. Like it just sounds like an overdrive pedal, and that's it. And
Interesting.
yeah, it's another one of those records that I was just completely amazed by the production on it because I love whenever things once again are imperfect in a really cool way. And
Yeah.
the whole song also it kind of the production also complements the song. The whole song is about thinking about like whenever they were first getting into music, you
Hmm.
know, talking about like playing a guitar with three strings on it while their friend is playing Californication in the other room or
Yeah.
whatever, and so it was cool because like it sounded like a high value version of like people getting together and just making music in someone's basement for fun. And
Yeah.
so it was cool that the song was about that too.
That's really sick. Uh, I'm gonna have to. You've convinced me after this whole year of talking about medium build to start getting into them. So I'm gonna have to do that. Number 8 for me. I won't spend a long time on this one. It's "A Kiss for the Whole World" by Inner Shikari. I'm a simple man. If Inner Shikari drops a record, I'm gonna listen to it.
It's fair.
Yeah. So
My number 8 is also just as easy to get through, and it's "Real Spring" by Skrillex and Blade. Um, that is probably my favorite song on that whole Skrillex album.
really, the
Yeah,
pop one.
yeah, dude. It's called "Real Spring." If you want to check it
Yeah.
out, it's so good.
My son is crying. He is
I could
screaming his head off.
hear poor
I don't
guy.
know. I don't know what his problem is. Um,
He's mad because you're not talking about his end of the year playlist.
I know. I know what the heck. He's like, Dad, you are skipping all of my Danny Go, all of the lo-fi that puts me to sleep, all
You put
of
him to sleep with lo-fi?
yeah,
Dude, that's so
literally
great.
all of
That's
my
the
top.
most. No, that kid is your son, dude. If
Yeah,
he can only sleep by listening to lo-fi, then that is your son
he
through and
listen
through.
he listens to Lo-Fi Girls playlist, sleep playlist to go to bed every night. So, um, number 7, Tori by Tori Kelly, the EP. Bro, I don't know how much you listen to that record, if at all.
Nah.
It's fantastic. Um, it is it's like a 4 or 5 song kind of deal. It is co-produced by well, firstly, it's Tori Kelly's first like thing that she's put out in a while. Like it's her first like not feature or not Christmas thing, like not special thing that she's put out in a very long time. Um, and it's co-produced by John Bellion. So
That guy.
it's co-produced by John Bellion and the band Lawrence,
Hmm.
who is John Bellion is signed to John Bellion's label.
Oh.
They're a brother sister duo. They're super cool. They're very much in that like funk jazz kind of thing. But John Bellion was like the main producer on it. Funnily, he also produced that Jonas Brothers record that dropped this year too.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of very cool drum breaks. I want to shout out AJ on TikTok who did a lot of the drum breaks for this Tori Kelly record. Actually, yeah, it's pretty cool. I started following him like before I even knew that. I just thought his drum breaks were sick. But he's a cool guy. I don't know, man. It's got this like dance breakbeat 2000s pop kind of vibe to it, like old Britney Spears, like disco adjacent, like dance break stuff.
Yeah,
But imagine that, but with like hip hoppy drum breaks.
that's cool. I need to listen to that one Gaga record that was like a dance album. Like the dude who mixed it. like only mixes like EDM and stuff, and they're like, no, he's the guy for
Weird.
this because we want it that
We want it
dance.
to be a dance
Like
record.
he's the type of dude that gets like a Pro Tools session in, and he's like, well, time to put it in Ableton.
Yeah.
You know, and like I don't know, I think that that's just amazing. But
That's
like I don't know,
amazing.
I'm fascinated by like the very dance kind of like
Yeah.
resurgence that's happening right now. Like a lot of
Yeah.
these bigger artists that really aren't like, you know, the forefront of radio are like putting out dance albums. And I think that's kind of cool.
Well, I find it really interesting in a similar way of like John Bellion's he's a pop producer, obviously, but he's a pop songwriter mainly. But he's not like what he's known for is not clear, pristine, crisp stuff. Like
Isn't he
what
more
he's
of like
known
a
for,
ballad kind of boy?
he's a hip hop guy, like very grungy,
Oh,
gritty, like MPC, like plays every pad type beat guy.
interesting. I don't know
Like
too much about him. I just know he's wildly famous and successful and
you
talented.
would you would really like his record from a production standpoint because it is some of the most creative from a blending of the like old school hip hop and mainstream pop like worlds. It's so cool. Very like I said, very sample MPC like heavy stuff. But yeah, that's my number 7,
Mine is Tiny Raindrops by Balance and Composure.
bro. I love
It's
Balance and Composure.
it's just a classic.
Golly, dude.
Yeah.
That's such a good one.
Yeah. There's not really much more to say
Yeah,
about
about to
that.
say there's not a whole lot to say about that one.
Yeah.
I'll
If you haven't listened to The Things We Think We're Missing by Balance and Composure, then you need to because it's one
you
of the
have
best
to.
albums ever. It took me
Yeah.
a long time to get into them. The main reason why I got into them is because Sam would always play the guitar riffs, and I'm like, that's such a good riff. Did you write that? And he's like, no, it's Balance
Bro,
and Composure, dummy.
they
Like,
have
you listen to it.
such good riffs.
Yeah, they really nail it, and that's not
They've
even.
I think they've also probably inspired a lot of pop guitar stuff.
Yeah,
They don't even understand.
yeah, they're really good. They're just really good.
In that same vein, talking about stuff we've already talked about a little bit, the Aries record from last year, Believe in Me, with like it's a good record, man. I don't know. I just go back to it. It's got that like perfect blend of hyper pop and accessibility.
Yeah,
In my
Aries is
opinion,
nuts, dude. I love Aries. I think he's great.
he's so
It's
good.
also cool that he does a lot of his own production.
He does. It's like him.
Makes
It's
me
literally just
worried.
him and the homies.
There's something really strange about being like, hey, I produce music, but I really like it whenever artists produce themselves. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I'd appreciate it if, you know, every artist couldn't produce, so I have work. But like
Yeah.
at the same time, it's interesting. Like whenever you have these artists that can also produce and get their own ideas out, and you know, make songs that entirely lived in their head, and then you get to hear them. I think that that's sick.
So on that note, Aries had a really good video that he dropped recently on YouTube of him showing like a little bit of BTS of making his most recent song that he dropped, like the one that came out in the last like month or so. And it's literally like him. The way he generally produces is like him and 3 guys. So he's got like another producer that he works with, the guitar player that also does a bunch of guitar stuff with Breakins. He's like one of Breakins' guitarists live.
Mm.
But he also tours with Aries as well. You've probably seen him. He does like a lot of like the Midwest emo tappy stuff. Those 2, and then another guy who also is a producer. So he like, yes, he does self-produce, but he works with 2 other producers and a guitarist that does such a unique thing. I would also call him a producer in that aspect.
Yeah.
So it's not just him popping out the songs. They basically are throwing paint at the wall
Yeah.
for all day together, which is
Super
kind of
cool.
cool.
I like it.
Yeah. Go for it, Josh. Number 6.
7:12 p.m. by Future. The only artist that matters. And honestly, this should have been my most listened to song. My most listened to song is only up there because one day I was hanging out with friends and we really liked this song. and we started listening to it, and so that stole my number one spot
Mm-hmm.
from the King, Future.
What? Why? So, explain to me and to the people of the podcast why you love Future so much.
All right, so I used to not like Future that much.
Because it took
I
me a
didn't,
while to get into him
I didn't
myself.
get Future. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there's something. It's like whenever you turn 21, and you start going for the hard stuff. You know, it's like before that you were like sneaking wine coolers. You know, then you turn 21 and you drink whiskey for the first time, and you're like, this is probably the worst thing I've ever had in my life. But then you keep drinking it because you want to prove something to everybody, right? Then before you know it, you really like whiskey. Future is like double oaked Woodford Reserve bourbon. You know, he is just the cream of the crop. He is the best to ever do it. Is what's special about this song? It's the first song on the album, which is titled "I Never Liked You." At least I think that's what it's called. Yeah, I never liked you. And the opening line is sit behind 5%, you could see the chinane. Future. Really?
What are what are you talking about, bro?
His his chain
I know.
is so shiny that you can see it through 5% tint. That sounds like a story you would hear out of the Bible. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this man does miracles. Whenever Future said,
This man
I have,
does miracles.
he does. Whenever he said, I got fentanyl in my diamonds. I don't know what that means. I don't know,
I don't know why you would want that.
but I believe him. It could
He
be,
says
it
it
could be.
with conviction.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, it could be slang. You know what I mean? I was
Yeah.
talking to my brother about it, and he was like, "What if he's saying that like the fentanyl actually looks like diamonds? You know, because it's like
It could be.
so pure." And I was like, "Well, like fentanyl's pretty pure, so like I don't understand why." You know what I mean? Like I don't know why you would have to brag about that because it's so
Yeah,
strong
I
to
don't
begin
know.
with. So, or if he's talking about lacing, like that was another thing that we talked about. What if he's mixing fentanyl and cocaine?
What if he's the guy? Yeah.
But that's not really something to brag about, and I don't think Future would do his customers like that. His
No.
his esteemed customer base would not appreciate that sort of product.
Getting
So
laced, yeah.
yeah, so like I don't think that that's really something that somebody of the prestige of Future would be bragging about.
You're correct.
I feel like he does good
A king
business.
like Future.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It's like he is the LeBron James of hip hop. All right, he is the Tiger Woods of hip hop. He is the Tom Brady of hip hop. He is the best to ever do it. And most of the time, I have no clue what he's saying, but there's something about listening to Future where you just, whatever you have to conquer, I swear, okay, if you put on 7:12 p.m. before you go do that thing, you are going to feel like you can conquer anything in your path because Future has already done it for you.
He's just showing you the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you know, some people go to church. Some people go to therapy. Some people hire coaches or personal trainers. Me, I listen to Future.
Incredible. Incredible. Well, praise Future.
That's right.
Praise the one and true king Future.
Yeah.
That's your number 6, you said?
Yeah.
That's amazing that's only your number 6.
There's another good one. So.
Okay. There's another. We'll get there. Number 5 for me. It is Celebrants by Nickel Creek. Nickel Creek is a bluegrass band, but they are, I guess, what some would call like pop progressive bluegrass. So they do a lot with like messing around with chords and vocals and the way they structure things and time signatures, and it feels like the dream theater of bluegrass. It's crazy. If so, they're traditional bluegrass. They are Chris Thile, who is an actual. He has been deified by this point. He is a vocalist and a mandolin player. They have another guy who plays acoustic and also sings, and then they have a girl that plays violin and sings, and then they tour with a upright bass player. But the main group is just the three of them. They all sing, and they will like hold notes and like bend them into other chords together without tuning.
See,
Like
this
it's
is why you
the
can't let theater
craziest thing.
kids. You can't let theater kids out. You know what I mean? Because
You can't.
they start doing crazy shit like that, and then I have to compete, and I don't like that.
You need to listen. I'm gonna send you a couple songs to listen to, but dude, I saw it live, so I got to see them live last year. Or no, it was this year. It was earlier this year. They went on their tour for this record this year because this record came out early this year. Um, yeah, of the records that came out this year, this is definitely my favorite. It's I don't know, man. It's so good. The production on it's really cool. The songwriting's really, really good. They do a really good job of storytelling, which is like a big part of like, Americana bluegrass country type stuff. They do a really good job of like rotating who sings leads and stuff. So they like different people will take different parts depending on songs, and then I don't know, man. And then some of the best chops of like musicianal chops I've ever heard in my life. So yeah, Celebrants by Nickel Creek. If somebody wants to check out a song off of the record and they want one like specific song, I would say go listen to Holding Pattern or Strangers. Those are probably my two, or The Meadow. Um, any of those three kind of do all of the things that I was talking about. It's crazy. Josh, you're number 5. We're in our top 5. Top
I don't
5
even.
songs of the year.
My top five actually got really screwed up by autoplay. Because this song and another song just kept autoplaying after I'd listened to something new.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't even my favorite song on the album, which just came out finally, but it's Love Again by the Kid Leroy. It's a good song. It's a really good
Oh,
song.
off the new Kid Leroy record? I haven't listened to
Yeah,
that record at all.
this is the one that's like acoustic, almost kind of has like a folk vibe to it. I think Lewis Bell worked on this one.
Oh, nice.
Let me see. No, he didn't. This one was produced by Circuit. Wait, which song is this? Yeah, this is the one I'm thinking of. Very good song. Fantastic. I think that he took him forever to drop an album, but
I
now
know.
that he did it, I'm really happy with the direction that he's going. I think he's going to be one of the greats of our time because he's only like 18 or something like that, and yeah. So that's
Off
basically
of
all I
the
have to
first
say.
time, that
Oh,
record.
speaking of which, about Future. Future has an insane feature on this album. You
Off
definitely
of
need to
What's the
listen
Move?
to it. Yes. Yeah. That always gets me confused because there's another song called What's the Move? It's a Young Thug song. But yeah, yeah, that song, dude, it's
Oh, they're
crazy.
pretty good.
One of the craziest beats I ever heard. Leroy actually kills it. Like through and through, like before, like it always kind of just felt like, oh, like white kid trying to rap. No, I think you can say that he's great in hip hop, but then he's also great at pop and the
Sure.
more acoustic, mellow stuff that he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a John Cunningham song that's just an acoustic guitar, rips. You could tell it was just whatever guitar they had lying around in an SM7. It was a Clams Casino song, which is crazy. Clams Casino is one of my favorite producers of all times,
Yeah.
and he has a song on that album which is unreal. I started screaming when I first heard it because I immediately knew it was Clams Casino, and I was so happy to finally hear one of his songs again.
Yeah.
And then What's the Move? I heard that Future singing on it, dude.
He's
Whew.
going for it.
Dude, the Kid Leroy got Future singing.
Let's go.
It's a great day. It's a great day for a great day. But yeah, that's my number 5.
Nice. Number 4 is the Young Pop Renegades Volume 2 with our boy Matt Parker.
Nice.
This is how little I listened to music this year, because that record, I actually listened to that record a lot, more than I expected. But that record also, there were some songs on that record that were on some playlists of mine that ended up getting like on some rotation and stuff for me. So, but yeah, it's a really good record. We talked to Matt in episode the 50s, 60s, somewhere around in there, about doing the Young Pop Renegade stuff. And if you don't know, TLDR, he did a writing day or a writing weekend with like 13 songwriters and producers, and they wrote a 10-song album in that whole weekend and then put it out. And it's super cool.
It is super cool.
It is super cool.
It's very cool.
I would say there's some very inspired ideas in there as well, especially just for like the couple days that they had. So yeah, that one, just quick little shout out on that one.
My number 4.
Yep. Are we back?
We talked about the king, right? So now we have to talk about the prince, which is Lil Baby.
Yeah.
It's Whoa by Lil Baby, which is off of what album is this? This is off of My Turn. Which, fun fact about My Turn, it was the most listened to album of 2020. But for some reason, they couldn't get it any awards or any recognition, which is nuts.
Wild.
I know, dude. The Lil Baby documentary, I think it's on Hulu, is awesome. It's so good.
Oh, I didn't know you had a doc. That's interesting.
Oh, dude, you gotta watch it. It's so good. It's so good. And I love Lil Baby. Sometimes I feel like he could kind of just keep releasing the same stuff, but it's cool. Like
sometimes
he just keeps getting better.
He does the 1% tweak every song idea, which is like, I'm gonna release the same song and tweak it a little bit every single time and make it slightly better.
Yeah, and he dropped an album this year, and it's really, really good. But this song in particular, this one is just one of those hype songs that I have. Very similar to 7:12 p.m.
Yeah.
Typically, I'll listen to that, and then I listen to Whoa, and I'm like, all right, I'm in a good mood.
The day's gonna rip.
It's so good. It's so catchy. It's funny because, like, a lot of times in trap, like, sometimes they aren't like the catchiest things in the world, but like this straight up has like a pop hook in it, and it's really cool. It's really cool. I did a remix of it for fun.
Nice.
Last week.
Nice. All right, moving into the top 3. We're at the hour mark. Moving into the top 3. For me, there's been a consistency across a lot of my 15 songs so far, which is this year for some reason I was like super into folk and like Americana music. And that does not stop at number 3, which is Salt by Half Moon Run. They're a French Canadian Americana folk group. They dropped this record, I think it was this year. This is probably my second favorite record of this year. My brother-in-law actually sent me a couple songs off this record, and I could just not stop listening to this record. It sounds like a more accessible Fleet Foxes.
That's cool.
Like more pop. Like take Fleet Foxes and make them for the radio. And like
that's really cool.
Very good.
I'd like to listen to that.
Yeah, like it's. I feel like you would actually really enjoy it a lot.
I probably would. I'm actually like it's really just the timing,
Mm-hmm.
But the Zach Bryan album didn't make it in my top 15. It was
Oh yeah,
close, you know, which really says something because it only came out like what, a month or two ago.
yeah,
But that album like kind of ruined my life, where I was just like, I need to drop everything and only listen to this.
yeah,
Um, and so yeah, I would love to hear that.
yeah. It's really good. I feel like you would really enjoy it. There's some interesting like couple songs that kind of give me like the Eagles vibes, and some
Mm.
songs that sound like
Have
like
you noticed that? I'm sorry to cut you off.
no, you go ahead.
There's something about those old Eagles songs that is like trickling into pop music right now.
Yes,
It's
in
very
that Post
weird.
Malone record, it's a lot in that Post
Yes.
Malone record.
Well, I noticed specifically with songs that Billy Walsh is on, because
Mm,
he did a lot of the Leroy stuff, and there's a lot in there too where I'm like, this sounds like classic rock albums.
yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And like it's weird that these French Canadian dudes are like, hey, we're gonna cite like the whitest dudes. I mean, they're pretty white too, but
No,
like the
dude,
most
French Canadians.
American,
Yeah, no, French Canadians are way more white than us. You know what I
but
mean?
like
As far as whiteness
American.
goes,
Well, yeah, that's
Canadians are
true.
like,
Yeah, but I mean like white as in like American white, like Southern, like very classically Southern blues folk Americana stuff. I don't know. It's very interesting that that's the lane.
we should do a whole podcast on that. Like, what what are the whitest genres?
That's a good idea. And we will go find
Yeah.
the widest genre. Our search to find the
Like
widest genre.
specific artists from
Yeah,
specific areas, and then we could get like a pin board together
and put it
and
behind your
figure it
head.
out.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfect idea.
Yeah, yeah. I'll look like Charlie from It's
Yeah,
Always Sunny when he's looking for Pepe
yeah,
Sylvia. I
yeah.
mean, smoking a
Pepe
cigarette.
Silva. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Salt Half Moon Run would highly suggest it. One of my favorite records of the year. Josh, we're moving into your top three.
All right,
What do we got?
dude. We're counting down. Well, you know, I'm not excited about number one still, but I'm very excited about this. It's Never Learned to Dance by Medium Build.
Oh, we're back on the medium build train.
This is one of the few, like I said, a lot of my playlist this year is just like things that autoplay and don't
Mm-hmm.
really reflect like what I'm excited about.
Sure.
And this is one of those songs where I'm like, yeah, this is good. This is the good stuff. I listen to this song so much. Um,
It's off of
performance
the
in it is
Health EP.
stunning. Yeah. Uh, this is the first song I heard by him. He did a live video in like someone's backyard, and it's just him and like a jazz chorus and a bunch of ribbon mics, and it sounds unreal. And that's whenever I was like, yo, I really like this dude. And when I listened to the full produced version, I actually didn't like it at first because I was like, ew, like it sounds so much better with just him and a guitar. But for people who agree with that, he just dropped Health plus a few other songs live from RCA in Nashville. It's called Health Dash Live from RCA Studios. Well, live from RCA Studio A. And so yeah,
And
this is definitely
that's the version that you found.
no. He just released that, but it's
Oh,
done
okay.
up the same way. It sounds
Okay,
so good,
gotcha.
dude. He has such a
Heck yeah.
special voice. In my opinion, if we're talking about voices that um like make you feel something in your bones, like I
Hmm.
think that Medium Build and like Zach Bryan take the cake for me. Um, just a wonderful artist who
Yeah.
makes beautifully painful music to listen to, and it's great.
Number two. This is funny because it was my top album of last year, and I just can't stop listening to it. It's Hypochondriac by Breakins.
Great album.
Such a good album. It's one of those albums, and the reason it has like it's at the top of my list is because of exactly that. It is such a good album that like you can kind of start anywhere and you'll just accidentally listen to the whole thing.
The beautiful thing about artists that aren't massively popular is album tracks exist. I love album tracks. Album tracks have always been my
Yeah.
favorite tracks on an album. It's very rare that the single is like my favorite song. The only
Yeah.
time, the only artist that gets the exception is the 1975 because they're like known to release like weird singles. You know,
Yeah. And
like I
they
remember when
also know what's gonna hit.
yeah, I remember when Love Me dropped. Coming off the self-titled, they dropped Love Me, and I was like, this is awful. I'm gonna hate
What?
this album. Now, like, it's one of my favorite. Like, I
And then
think
they
about that
dropped
song
People.
every time. Yeah. Dude, yeah, like they're just known for it. It's
Weird.
so good.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, like Breakins is just one of those artists where it's like refreshing being able to listen to music that isn't super concerned about TikTok or, you know, playlists or charts or anything. It's just like, yo, here's this
And
hyper creative thing I made.
it's also crazy because like he's like properly signed.
Yeah, he's
And
on Columbia.
yet they give him that freedom still, which is I'm
Well,
sure he had to fight for that. Or he basically gave him the here's what I'm gonna do.
he sat on that album for a very long time.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Um
100%.
one of the artists I work with kind of knows him and like people that are like close to him.
His circle.
Dude, they made him wait so long just to drop a single. Um
The
because
Argyle was the
they
first
were
one that they dropped, and I showed you. That's when you found out about Break-Ins. Was when I showed you that song, right? In Lee Studio.
I found out about Break-Ins.
No, maybe that was when Lee found out about
That was
Break-Ins.
whenever Lee found out about him. I found out about Break-Ins whenever I started working with Cavern.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
slightly before.
and I
Yeah.
was like, yo, this is sick. But yeah. So they like made him wait like a very long time. I think to like recoup the Black Bear feature from
Mm.
from Dropout.
Yeah. Still,
But yeah,
it
I'm glad that
actually.
the album came out
I
the
actually
way it
think.
did.
To be fair, I actually think that waiting was the best thing that they could have done because it
Probably.
created so much hype. He dropped singles so far apart, and he created so much hype for that record that when it dropped, it was like it couldn't help but be massive.
Have you noticed that though? It seemed like because that just happened with the Leroy album too, and it happened with the Skrillex album.
Mm-hmm.
They like people were like dropping
And
singles
Post
months
Malone,
apart. Well, Post dropped an album a year for the past 3 years or two
yeah,
years.
and then he went dark for a little bit.
Yeah, so it's like I don't consider that, but
Sure.
I think like for a while it was like, oh, you got to keep people entertained. You have to drop a song every month. Blah 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 blah. Albums are dead. But now it feels like people want albums and like they're just like, hey, here's a taste of the album. I'm gonna make you wait forever. So then whenever it comes out, it's all you listen to for like 3 weeks.
I think on a micro level, talking about Snake Eyes earlier, like that was his version of doing that.
Yeah.
Instead of dropping singles, he just dropped pieces, small pieces of the song over the course of months. And so he teased the song for months and then created so much hype behind it that it really popped off whenever the song actually dropped.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. My most listened to artist this year is my upstairs neighbor.
Oh yeah. I forgot. Is he going ham again?
Well, he's singing right now. I don't think he was jumping, unless if he was, and I just didn't notice it.
Gotcha.
But
Well,
yeah,
what's your number two?
My number two is Savior Mode by Balance and Composure.
All hail Balance and Composure.
Hearing Balance come back the way that they did, ooh, I'm one happy man. I'm really upset that I didn't get to see him.
Yeah, they
but
came
I
over
hope
to
that
Atlanta
I can.
when you were living there, I think.
I know. I missed it. And and I had the opportunity to go to LA, and I was going to see them in LA, and then I didn't go to LA.
Dang.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't, but
that would have been expensive and a bad decision. But yes, I agree. It sucks.
Yeah, and so like yeah, it sucks, dude. I'm gonna see them at some point though. I love them. It took me way too long to get into them. All my favorite artists are artists I found out after they break up
or like have a very long established career.
Yeah, and like because that happened with Super Heaven too.
Yeah.
Super Heaven was like my most listened to artist of like 2018, 2019, and you know,
Speaking of heaven related names, do you like Deaf Heaven a lot? I feel like you would like Deaf Heaven a lot.
yes.
I'm about to say
I don't. I'll be honest. I haven't listened to them in years, but Sunbather was by far one of my favorite albums ever, and uh, I don't like to admit it because it's super weird.
it's a very
It
weird record, but it's
if
very good.
someone says, "Hey, I love Deaf Heaven," you're just gonna assume that if they have movie night, they're gonna show you some weird French art house film that you're gonna fucking hate. And so
And you
I
are
I
that person.
I don't. I don't tell The Lighthouse is the best movie that I've seen ever. Okay. But these are things that we don't
Guys,
admit.
not only do I like Deaf Heaven, but The Lighthouse is the greatest movie ever.
It is. It is. Robert Pattinson got shafted by Twilight, dude. He's one of the best actors in the
He is a
world.
very good actor, actually.
Yeah, and The Lighthouse is one of the best movies ever made, if not the best movie ever made. And yeah, so like, and honestly, you could put Deaf Heaven behind that movie and they fit together perfectly. So,
Oh, I wonder if we could make an edit for that. I bet that would
oh,
actually work really
it's like
well.
an AMV, but for The Lighthouse.
Yeah, exactly. For
It's just like
For
it's
French
just like
house snobs.
it's just like weird. Like, to be fair, I don't think anybody in that movie's French, who worked
Well,
on
yeah,
that movie's French, which is good. But it's definitely an art house film.
yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe I am that guy, but I don't like to admit it though. All right, as far as everybody else is concerned, my favorite artist is Future, and my favorite movie is Cars, but not the sequel, just the first Cars.
Cars 1. We watched that one the other day. My son
I was-
also likes Cars.
Yeah, yeah, show him Future, and
Bro,
so
I'm going to and send you his reaction.
he started talking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna walk in one day and he's gonna be like, "Daddy, Daddy," and you're gonna be like, "What's up, Micah?" And he's gonna be like, 5% tint, you can see the chin, and you're gonna be like, "That's right, little guy, I'm so proud of you."
Praise our Lord Future. That's funny.
You're gonna walk in the house and he's gonna be like, "Daddy," and you're gonna be like, "What?" And he's gonna be like, "Slimes are dimes," and then he's just gonna run away.
That's funny.
Yeah.
My number one record of this year, or album of this year, is my own band's record, a song you can't feel anymore by Harm.
I love it.
It's because I just listened to it and I would do this thing where I would put it on and be like, man, that's a really good song. I'm really proud that we wrote that. And then that would just happen for 10 songs. Basically.
If you don't, that's part of the reason why I don't have a lot of minutes on Spotify is because if Dropbox did a Wrapped,
Yeah. It would
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like if my Notes app did a Wrapped, you know,
Yeah. 100%.
it'd be a much different story. I have way more minutes listened to on demos and voice notes and everything else.
So
And
when stuff gets released, it's like, heck yeah, I want to listen to that over and over again.
yeah, yeah. And
But yeah.
so
Shout out
my
to Andy and Billy for writing a really great record.
my number one got screwed up by the algorithm, dude. It's Woosaw by Mike. It's a great song. I love the production on it, but I listened to it like 10 times in a row whenever like the day it came out, because we had a little bit of like a midday party and I was like listening to it and everyone was like, yeah, this is really cool, and like we were going to use it as a reference for a song, and then it kept getting recommended to me. So it said my most listened to song I listened to 24 times, which I is the lowest number ever.
Yeah.
For me, typically it's like I'll listen to a song like 60 plus times in a year. It's my number one.
This is also very funny. This also shows how little I listen to music. My most listened to album, I listened to 104 times, like 104 plays on the album. So
That's
that means
pretty
that's
good.
not a lot. That's not a lot.
I can give you a brief synopsis of what the rest of the playlist
Yeah, go
looks
for
like.
it.
We have Batshit by Chesley. I think that's how you say his name. It's
Yeah.
Chesle. It's an artist that I found out a couple of my homies work with,
Mm-hmm.
And my dude Ben was like, "Hey, you should hit him up. I think that you guys would get along." And when I went to follow him on Instagram, I realized I followed him a few days before because I saw
Nice.
one of his ads, and I was like, "Yo, this dude is sick."
Nice.
We got more Kid Leroy. We got Zach Bryan down at like number 20, which is shocking that I was able to get him so far up on the list in such a short period of time.
For
More
sure.
medium build, more balance and composure, more future. Kid Leroy, balance and composure. Skrillex, Zach Bryan, Don Tolliver, featuring Justin Bieber in Future.
Yep.
We have The Industry by Prop, which is like one of my favorite songs. It's this cool artist. I think he's from like the UK and he moved to Austin or something. It's something
Prop.
weird like that. Yeah, PROP, all caps. The song is called The Industry. It's a post punk song.
That's sick.
Super cool voice, dude.
That's sick.
And he's in the pocket the whole time. One artist I didn't talk about is Noah Kahan.
Yeah.
Love him. Sarah's Place with Zach Bryan is
Dude,
on
Noah
here.
Kahan's gonna be at Shaky Knees next year in Atlanta.
No way.
He's headlining Shaky Knees, yeah.
That's super sick. I might have to go.
You should. It's gonna be actually very sick.
The rest of this are just all songs that I did or add in Kendrick plus the other artists I talked about.
Yeah.
Oh, Glaive,
Yeah.
obviously.
I'm actually surprised
17250
Glaive isn't
is.
higher up on your list.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure why I don't like put him on more, but I reference. There's like the music I enjoy listening to when I'm doing other stuff, and then there's like the music I like listening to when I'm working, and I'm
Like
like
listen,
referencing like,
yeah.
or I'm like, man, I want to get this drum sound. What do I want? And
What kind of sound am I going for? Yeah.
yeah,
That makes sense.
Lee's tired of me referencing 17250. Because I think every song should have that drum sound.
Yeah.
We got Nirvana, of course.
Yep.
The Smashing Pumpkins, Microwave.
Oh, you had
a little
like
bit of Drake.
You had like a grunge stint this year, didn't
Yeah,
you?
I always do. It's always
Sure.
in the back of my head. You know, I love all of that music from the night.
For
Like
sure.
that's what I came up on. You know, one of the first records I really listened to was why am I blanking right now? It's not. I want to say it's Melancholy, but it's not. It's Siamese Dream by the Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
I found that.
Great
Found the
record.
tape downstairs at my house. My dad had a bunch of cassettes and CDs and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and so I would go through them and listen to them. And the Smashing Pumpkins was like the first band that I ever listened to where I was like, "Yo, like,
Also
music is sick."
Very cool production. Like especially for their time, like very cool production.
Incorporating drum machines, you know, which
Yeah, and like a lot of fuzz pedals, like in
Yeah.
weird ways and stuff.
You know what's
Yeah, I
really
love it.
funny? Apparently, most of that fuzz sound. I mean, granted, we don't know what the recording chain was.
Sure.
I'm sure someone has it documented somewhere.
Sure.
But apparently, it's just a big muff, dude. Now,
Like raw. That's
no,
gnarly.
like going through amps, but
Okay.
like
I thought
that
you were gonna say
fuzz,
just
like
like
the
raw.
actual fuzz pedal.
No, yeah,
Because
that doesn't
there's
surprise me.
there's something really big about those guitars, and yeah, I think it's just how they captured them that really
So
did it.
somebody that follows that exact same model is like early Muse. They follow that same like Smashing Pumpkins thing, and a lot of their guitars are going through like big muffs.
Yeah, well, there's also this thing too where fuzz pedals aren't made the same as they used to
Yeah.
be made.
No, they're not. Like old big muffs are noisy.
Yeah, and then you have germanium, which is like dependent on temperature, how you store them can make them sound different. And then found out that it's very picky. Like you should put a fuzz pedal before your tuner. And cable length makes all of the difference with the fuzz pedal, believe it or not.
Weird.
To the point where I think I talked about this on the podcast.
Yeah, you talked about this before, I think.
Some dudes will actually have a guitar around specifically to use with the fuzz pedal where the pickup is directly wired to the input jack.
That's crazy.
Nothing in between, because like apparently I want to test it one day.
Yeah,
you know,
that'd be interesting to test. Like,
because I remember, like my homie Sam, I remember he was like, "Yeah, dude, like reamping just sounds awful," and I was like, "That doesn't make any sense." You know, I think whoever did it just didn't know what they were doing. His primary distortion is a fuzz pedal.
That makes a lot
He's
of sense.
really nice. He has one of those demon fuzzes from Fuzz
Yeah.
Rocious. You can't even find the one that he has anymore, because that was back whenever they were still just like making a few and selling
Yeah.
them. And yeah, like that was probably my favorite fuzz pedal in the world. Maybe one
So
day when I'm rich, I can give them enough money to
yeah,
let them get rid of it, you know.
yeah.
But
For
yeah.
my random other things, like you were listening to your other songs, I use this app called Snipped, SNIPD, for my podcast listening app, because it lets me, like, if I hear a clip, it lets me like internally clip a section of a podcast and then like save it for later,
Hmm.
which is really sick. So I listened to, this is very funny. I listened to uh Daily Stoic. I listen to that pretty much every single day. Gary V, because he had like people like Future on, and like, yeah, he had like T-Pain on and
Oh, that's
stuff.
sick. T
So there's
Pain's
like
dope.
some really interesting conversations. Six Figure Creative, because why not? And then Deep Dive with Ali Abdaal was a middle of the year pickup, and it actually should be higher. I would have listened to it a lot more if I would have picked it up. But it's this YouTuber, Ali Abdaal, who used to be a doctor and now is in the productivity space on YouTube. And he's in the UK, so he has access to like a bunch of like people in the health world, like the high level health world. So he has a bunch of really interesting conversations about like health and business and stuff. Very good podcast. Would highly recommend that. But the thing I wanted to tell you, I have our numbers for our podcast.
Oh, really? Now?
Yep. Uh, so this is we had a 55% increase in people joining to listen to our podcast for the first time this year.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really
Nice.
great.
I like it. I'm glad that we're not
Um,
like boring the shit out of
I
everybody,
know
you know?
this is even cooler. A lot of people that listen to podcasts generally listen to like a lot of podcasts. You know what I mean? It's like people that listen to music. They listen to like a ton of music.
Hmm.
Um, we are a top 10 podcast for 78 people. Think about that for a
Whoa.
second. That's a lot.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. So if we go down, we are a top 5 podcast for 46 people, which is even crazier when you think about it. And we are 9 people's number 1 podcast.
Wow. That's super cool.
That's super cool, right?
That warms my little. I don't. I'm also not included in those numbers because I refuse to listen to our podcast because I'll cringe and then I'll never do it again.
I don't listen to our podcast other than to like just make sure everything's good. But yeah, I only listen to like a couple episodes every now and again just to make sure. Um, but yeah, I thought you might enjoy those little numbers. Also, our most listened to episode this year was my episode I did with my buddy Ian when you were gone. You were in a session, I think,
Yeah,
or you were gone that day or something. I think it might have been when you were traveling over the summer.
I think so.
I think it was when you were traveling over the summer. I did a 2-part episode with my buddy Ian, and we talked about crafting a unique artist identity. That was the second part of it, and it was the top episode, and it did 275% more than our average episode.
Wow. I'm sorry. I was reading about the Smashing Pumpkins. Which episode was that again? Was that Ian's? You said.
Yeah, the part 2 of Ian. So Ian had 2 parts because me and him ended up talking for like 2.5 hours, and
That's right. I
there
remember
was a
that.
nice like break point in the middle. So I ended up splitting it into 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's super cool.
I should have done that with Tanner's, honestly, but also, if you think about this is also crazy. I'm gonna go through. We've interviewed a ton of people this year, dude.
Dude, we've interviewed a ton of people.
We've talked with a ton of people about music stuff. Um, let me pull up our podcast episodes from this year. We have, let's see. So, 2023. We didn't start, so we took a break because you moved at the end of last year.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk. We did an episode in September of last year, and then we didn't do another episode until April. So also, you got to think about this. We didn't podcast for the first 4 months of this year.
That's actually weird to think about.
That's weird to think about, right? But also think about the numbers that I was telling you before and the fact that we didn't podcast for 4 months this year and it was still that received that well.
Yeah, a third of our year, we weren't even very much
We
on
weren't
this
active at all. No, we literally weren't active at all. So people that we've interviewed this year, we started our first interview was Aaron Pace. Fantastic episode with him, and then we did Josh Landry, Low Spirit. Then we did I did an episode with Chris Bowman that you weren't there for. We did that episode with Matthew Parker that I mentioned earlier. That was episode 64, by the way. We did the Ian episode, which was 2 episodes. We interviewed Shane. We talked with Darth. We talked with Joe from Get Good Drums. We talked with Seth about YouTube production and being a music producer on YouTube and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of is what sparked you like dabbling with like YouTube stuff again, which was really cool. We talked to Tanner. I got to talk to Phil Odom, who was an awesome guest.
I'm still bummed I missed that one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Phil.
Yeah. We talked with Isaiah Prather.
Yeah.
That was in August. That does not seem like it was that long ago. That was in August.
It's crazy.
That's wild, right? That's wild.
I was about to say this year, this is like the first year I think I've ever had where I didn't feel like it flew by. I feel like this year was long.
It was very long. We talked with Scott. Me and Nolan from Heirloom did like a podcast, which we're gonna have him back on to do like an actual conversation with both of us. But me and him did a podcast where it was like on both of our feeds because he has a podcast that he does.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a podcast that got shared to both feeds. We talked with Keach. And then you found out that he was in Haste the Day.
Yeah.
Which was funny. I talked with Jay Arrington. I talked with Sendai Mike. We did our second pod with John. And then we've talked with Davis, and then we've talked with Seth.
Yeah. Super sick.
That's a lot of people, dude.
It is. I mean, shout out to everybody that took
I
the
know.
time.
Shout out to all those people that gave us like multiple
really
hours.
Cool, dude. I mean, it's also neat, like the people that you talk to. Like I talk to Darth a lot now, which is super cool. And like,
I talk with Seth a ton.
I've always talked to Seth a fair bit. We haven't been keeping in touch as much as normal.
Yeah,
I think that Seth doesn't like me. It's really just because I'm very rarely on Facebook Messenger now.
No, he loves you. He thinks you're great. I talked to other Seth Goodwin.
Yes, yeah. I was just DMing him the other day. He always posts cool stuff on his story.
Dude, he is very, very. I want to give a shout out to Seth, by the way, Goodwin. Velvet Year on all socials. He posts really interesting stuff. Like he tries a lot of cool stuff. I think he's in the middle of dropping a song a week right now,
which is like
because he wants to test. he wants to test, like, does it work? People say all the time that you should do that, and that's the way to grow. And he's like, well, no one's doing it that I know of, but that's what everybody
Yeah.
says they should do. So I'm just gonna do it and like see if it works for my artists. Like as a producer, I feel like that's kind of our job, right? A little bit to test the waters in some ways like that, so
Yeah.
that we could give good advice to our artists.
That's facts. I don't know, it's funny. There's just so many different variables in what we do,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Always thinking about that,
Yeah, no, it's super
navigating
cool.
it and um real quick, I found the Siamese dream sauce.
What is this?
Okay, so it is a big muff, but I knew it wasn't any old normal big muff. Like you can't go to Guitar Center and
Yeah.
pick up the sauce. So first of all, the main guitar sound is a 90s 57 reissue Strat, painted silver and decorated with bats. It's known as the Bat Strat. But overall, he has a bunch of different Strats. There's a ES335 that he played a little bit. Other dude in the band would typically play Gibsons.
Mm-hmm.
The two amps are a JCM 800 2210, which is interesting, from
Yeah.
1984, and then a Fender Bassman Drip Edge. Um, so the
Which those are two of your favorite amps.
they're literally probably,
Your two favorite amps.
we know Josh's opinion on amps. If it ain't based on a plexi circuit, it's bad. I actually don't know
Yeah.
if the 800 is based on a plexi circuit, but I'm assuming it's not that much different.
No, it's not
But
that much different. But it
I
sounds
love
awesome.
them.
Yeah.
So basically, what makes it so special is the 800. They swapped out the EL34 tubes for KT88s,
Interesting.
and
Interesting choice.
that is like the primary amp that they used on it.
The 800 with the
Um,
KT88s swapped.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and then they would also use one of those JPM1 preamps, which I want one so bad. You could still find them, into an Alesis compressor with a Mesa boogie head. Um, and then he would like tour using mostly like Laney's Bassman,
Mm-hmm.
the Bassman, Selmer amps, Orange amps, and an AC30. And he recorded with them too, but the main guitar sound on those albums is the 800 with KT88s. Now, the pedal that makes it special is a 70s op amp Big Muff. It's a V4.
I bet it's massive.
I want to know how much it is. That's what well, and then there was also something that Butch Vig used on a lot of those like more cool guitar sounds was
Mm-hmm.
the Mutron biphase. I looked up that effect. The cheapest you could find them is for $2,200. They're big. It's a pedal and it
They
has a foot switch attached to it.
so Electro Harmonics did a Billy Corrigan Big Muff replica
Interesting. I wonder if it's the same.
based on it's based on the 70s V4 IC Big
Yeah.
Muff. Billy Corrigan and EHX carefully replicated the tone into a pedal.
1970s Big Muff Pi? Is it the
Yep.
Pi?
Yeah, it's the Pi.
So if you want the original one, they're about 1,200.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, so the orange one is the replica. The Electro Harmonics op amp Big Muff Pi.
Interesting. I would love to hear.
That's the Billy Corrigan
I
pedal.
would love to hear them side by side. That's like a lot of people will buy like a DS1 and a Twin, and then be like, "Why doesn't it sound like Nirvana?" And during the recording of Nevermind, Kurt was so obsessed with the album sounding like how they did live that he used his touring rig, which they decided on. It was a DS1, and the DS1 he had was whenever they were still made in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going through a Mesa Studio preamp into a Crown amplifier into four, I want to say Mesa 412s. They might have been Marshalls, but I think they were Mesa cabs. And that was like the sound of Nevermind. And it was literally like it sounds so big and so loud because it was so big and so
It was
loud.
massive. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
massive setup.
yeah. And he was like, "Yeah, this is what we're using." And Butch Vig was like, "All right, man, let's do it."
Let's
You
mic it
know,
up. Yeah, that's
Butch
crazy.
Butch Vig is one of the greats, dude,
Yeah,
hands
dude.
down. I
He made
honestly,
some of the coolest, loudest records,
I know, I didn't even realize that he also did Siamese Dream, which is
which
crazy.
makes a
Like
lot of sense actually when you
it
think about it,
makes
when you listen
it
to
makes
them.
so much sense,
Yeah,
you
it makes
know.
a ton of
And
sense actually.
it's just kind of funny because that's like those are like two of my favorite albums ever, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
So
dude. Well, yeah. Shout out to all the people that listen to this podcast and listen to us ramble every
yeah,
week
about dumb things like
like that.
which model of the Big Muff do you need in order to sound like Billy Corgan?
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what's funny is so like the first like introduction of like noiseless pickups had
Hmm.
like this really cool sound to it where they were like a little bit thicker, they weren't as jangly, but then like they took gain really really well. So I like my bucket list is I need to own a 1982 or 1983 Fender Elite Strat because they have the ghost coils underneath and you can't get pickups that sound like that anymore.
Yeah.
And the closest that you can get, in my opinion, is lace sensors. And it's funny because every time I hear some of my favorite guitar sounds, it ends up being a Fender guitar with lace sensors in it. And that's what Siamese Dream was mostly recorded on.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. So you could actually, with that guitar and that replica Big Muff Pie, theoretically could get it the Siamese Dream sound.
You can get very close. Yeah.
Or at least
Very
very,
close.
very close. Yeah, yeah.
Another thing is, I'm pretty sure that Butch was on a big Neve board or SSL. Like, what
He
board
would have been
did Butch
on
Vig
a
use?
Neve board at that time, I think.
Which were, I hate these equip board things, but I
I
have to go
know.
through it.
I know.
Whoa. I guess he had an AMEC board at one point. The
He
song
was he ran a
Polly,
split board for a while too.
it looks like Polly was recorded on an AMEC TAC Scorpion console.
Oh,
We're getting super nerdy
yeah, I was
now.
about to say I don't even know. Well, that's past my purview of an AMEC TAC Scorpion.
Yeah, that's
That's
what it's called.
crazy.
A modded combo bassman was used on a bunch of his records. They're listing every Waves plugin that he's ever used, also, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Let me just search for Neve and see what pops up. So we have.
However, the mic pre's and EQ aren't super great. They are okay. That's very funny. And that honestly, if that is true, that probably lends itself to being why those records sound the way they do. If he was
Oh
using an
wait,
AMEC.
wasn't yeah? Because he had his own studio, and then he also recorded at Sound City, which
Yeah.
is the whole reason why Dave bought that board. So yeah, like
Yes.
Nevermind was done on the Neve.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
just had a
That's what I
massive
thought.
disconnect. I wonder what console was used or like what studio was Siamese Dream recorded at.
I would assume the same one in Seattle.
Sound City was in L.A.
I thought they did. But I thought they did Nevermind in Seattle, or did they go to LA for
No,
Nevermind
they were all living in L.A. at
at
that
that
point.
point? Okay.
Yeah, and then I think what happened is they got so famous from Nevermind that that's whenever Kurt moved out of LA and went back
Back
to
to Seattle.
Seattle.
That's
And
what it
that's
is.
whenever other people started going with him because
Yeah.
the dudes in REM also like I think like the vocalist of REM bought the house next door to him or something like that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
This has been a 90s grunge deep dive
Yeah,
with
and
Josh
it looks
Madison.
like Siamese Dream was also recorded on Neve 86A.
So about to say, yeah, if that was they went to Sound City in LA, then yeah, it was gonna be
dude,
the
wait,
Neve.
hang on. Let me share my screen real quick.
Can you? On the bottom? You got it?
Look at this kind of website I'm on right now. Do you see it?
Hold on, it's loading. Oh, I could see it.
It's like, dude, I'm in the trenches right now trying to get the.
Dang, bro.
Hey, let's see if Sound City pops up on this. No, it doesn't. What about Smart? No. Neve? Oh,
That's
never
never.
mind.
Do AMEK, AMEK.
Nah.
Okay.
I love Amex stuff. I think it's really unique. Weren't they like the original like R&D? I think they were.
So you can get the AMEK console that he used to use like in his other studio, by the way. Brainworks makes one. The 9099.
Yeah, I use it all the time.
Yeah, it's like I think that's based off of the one that he would use. So I think he had a split console. So they used to make consoles that were like two different halves of stuff. Or like I worked at a studio in I want to say it was in Greensboro somewhere, who did a split console where the first 16, it was a 32 or 48, it was a 48 channel, and it was the first 16 were all API, the second 16 were all Neve, and the last were all SSL. So you basically like hodgepodge together a like three consoles into one. And I know that he said that was a bigger thing that they used to do back in like the 90s, was they would like basically cut consoles in half and then like piece them together that way.
Oh, dude. All right, we're going down the crazy rabbit hole right now. It looks like on Siamese Dream the vocals were primarily in SM7. They used a Tube 47 on a couple songs, but decided later that the SM7 sounded better.
That
And
makes a
that
lot of sense
was
too.
running through an API lunchbox that he had and a Summit TLA 100, which the old Summit TLA 100s are apparently really sick.
Yeah.
I mean, the new ones are still sick too, but there was something about those old ones. They're kind of
They
like a
got used
deep
a
cut.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, like kind of just like a workhorse kind of thing that they did.
It's like the new basically it's like the new SSL, or not the Neve 1073. It's like they were like the original Neve 1073 basically. The workhorse pre. That's interesting, man. Well,
Oh, dude, they're talking about editing.
you're on this deep dive. I'm gonna let you do your thing.
This might be one of the best things I've ever read. All right,
So
I need to go edit vocals.
yeah. We are almost at 6,000 plays in total, by the way, on all
Ooh.
episodes. So, and we are this is actually episode 90.
For 100, what are we gonna do?
I have no idea, because 100 is going to be in probably like February. So we got to figure that out. But if any
February is
of you
also
are,
my birthday. We
if
should
any of
do a
you are,
podcast on my birthday.
if anybody is still listening, please let us know what you want us to do for episode 100. I don't know what we're going to do for episode 100.
We should do a challenge.
Maybe.
Like a hot dog eating challenge.
Maybe we'll do, and you know what? Maybe I'll bring somebody in for episode 100, and we will do a trivia mixed with a Hot Ones challenge. That sounds fun.
We need to get the
Every like 5
spiciest.
questions
We should do it like there's two things. We could either get the hot sauces from Hot Ones, or we could just go to Wingstop.
We'll see. But I'll figure that out. I think doing like a Hot Ones thing for episode 100 would be fun.
That would be really fun. Yeah, we should do that.
Yeah, I'll get somebody to interview us or something, and or do like questionnaires, or I don't know. I'll figure it out, but we'll do a hot ones type deal.
Cool.
And for episode 100, I feel like that'd be interesting. Cool. Well, Josh.
Oh no, what it needs to do is it's a hot ones challenge, but we're
Yeah.
asked our opinions on different hot takes.
Okay.
that have
Yeah,
to do
hot
with
ones, hot
music.
takes. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's
Yeah,
a good one.
that's what we're gonna do.
I
I've
love it.
decided.
All right. So, Josh, now that we've landed on that, thank you for being here and going over
Thank you.
a year in music and podcasting.
Yes, dude.
Next time we are going to talk about our goals and how we did this year on our goals.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, thanks for being here to talk. Listener, thank you for being here to listen. We will see you guys next time.
Toodaloo.